Plug-a-ba-doo-ba-doo.
Fertilizer.
Hello.
Hey, gentlemen and ladies.
Look what we got. It's apples. We're taking them to Gdansk. We're in Brno. Let's look at the truck. It's full of apples.
This is so pretty.
Farm sounds.
Oh, God, let's just drink those in. Why are the speakers on, Josh?
Oh, let me turn those on. Okay, now we can't hear the farm sounds anymore. They're no longer interesting. Let's go.
This is so beautiful.
So our plans didn't work out, everybody.
Yeah, no, we were going to have... This episode should have been... We having our friend Rob, alias Tumblr user, Nostalgia Brayest, in here. But there was... Basically, my life has just been comically stupid this week. There was an emergency. And so that didn't happen.
I'm glad the emergency resolved safely, by the way.
As am I, and I'm very happy about that. And that's all we're going to say about that. But regardless,
I thought I could beat him.
You can't beat him. Wait till
I can beat him.
Well, I mean, you can, I guess. But
Fuck you.
Wouldn't recommend it.
My truck is better than yours.
Oh, he's got a crane. Does your truck have a crane?
Shit. Mine's full of apples.
Yeah.
The fruit of sin.
Yep. So the upshot is that we were going to talk about Southland Tales. We were going to talk about Less Wrong. It was going to be fascinating.
This is all going to happen later.
Yeah, I mean, wet your whistles for that.
It's
folks.
probably going to be much later from your perspective.
I mean, at least...
From our perspective, too, honestly.
At least a fortnight.
Yeah.
At least a fortnight from now. So... You know, in the meantime, we are committed to churning this shit out week in, week out.
Except for that one that we missed.
Is that
for no reason?
Well, that was your fault.
Fuck you.
You didn't want to upload the extra long episode. You were all dragging your feet about it.
Yeah, I was so jet lagged. Come on.
Okay, but you know, regardless, we're pretty committed to trying at least to get. To plan ahead.
Everybody else has their fucking headlights on, so I guess I'm going to turn mine on.
I guess so. I like how you're being extra bold and daring and zesty with your camera pans this time around.
I've gotten really good at driving trucks. What can I say?
You don't even have to look at what you're driving at.
No, I can just use the map.
So the upshot was the extra one that we recorded for When I'm in China, which you'll be hearing next week, was supposed to be the one where we kind of didn't really plan ahead. It was going to be a nice discursive break from all of the super planned out and thought about ones that we're all the time doing with all the preparation and research. But now this is that one, because the other one actually ended up being about stuff.
It went really well.
Yeah.
And the trick
So
is in the next
stay tuned
one.
for that one.
In the next one, I said, well, it's going to have been 2 weeks since we talked about video games, so we can talk about video games for this one entirely.
Yeah, because we weren't going to talk about video games this time.
But video games are what we're good at talking about, or at least what I'm good at talking about, and I have nothing else to talk about.
It's your forte. It's your
specialty.
And
so we're kind of committing to not talking about video games in this episode,
right?
Which might be really tricky for me.
This is basically what we've got here is the Dogma 19 of truck episodes.
I don't get that reference.
I may have gotten the number wrong. You know, Lars von Trier, he had this. The first part of his career was he was committed to making movies with using only natural lighting and not using Foley sound and all of this nonsense.
And Dogma 19 was the movie that broke that trend.
No, Dogma. It was like it wasn't 19, but it was it was the list of X number of dogmas of principles that he and this group of people were.
It's the catch 42 of truck episodes.
It's the
crying of lot 29.
It's the 4 men and a baby.
5.5 men.
It's the 5.5 men truck episode. It's Fellini's 3.
It's Euro Truck Simulator 1.
Yeah. Oh, hey, that's what we should do for.
We should play. Oh no.
Oh, hey.
That's an expensive and bad idea.
Thank you very much. Would it be such a subtle joke? Pay us no heed, pay us no mind. So yeah,
I think you just told them to close the video.
Oh shit! Come back.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
You fuck off right back here.
We'll figure this out. We're gonna get our asses together,
Yes, I'm clenching as hard as I can right now.
and then our shit will come out together. It's
So
like
allow me to favor you all with a reading from the book Gruts by Ivor Cutler. If you haven't, I don't think I've talked about Ivor Cutler on here.
Yeah, what the fuck is this book, Isaac?
So Ivor Cutler is this Scotsman. He is. I know I did talk about him. I talked about him a little bit on my top everything. 220, the best of 2008 extravaganza video that we were just complaining about how long it was and how long it took us to put it up. But so I've talked a little bit about him, but he's a Scottish dude, and he's actually not Uncarms-like in his way. He does these little poems and stories which are surrealistic.
Hey, a train, by the way. We've confirmed their existence.
Oh, that's very nice. I wonder how long we'll be stuck behind this one.
It's not very long.
0 time. All right, awesome. And he did these radio shows where he would intersperse readings and skits with little songs that he would do on his pump harmonium. And the sound of Ivor Cutler's pump harmonium is one of the things in the world which are sort of lodestones for me and exemplars of the good thing. If we were doing this properly, at this point we would stop and Josh would edit in a Ivor Cutler song, but we're not going to do that.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Shoplifter.
But anyway, I'm going to favor you with a reading of a little piece which is almost certainly not going to be as good with me reading it as it is with Ivor Cutler's incredibly truculent, yeah, but it's absolutely the correct word to use. Scottish pinched voice. Pinched. Do you prefer pinched? There are no puns in pinched.
All right, Isaac, this better be worth it.
I was mostly just trying to get you to stop talking about shitting out of our mouths or whatever it was that you were doing.
I was making a joke about getting our shit together.
I mean, trigger warming and then film. How to make a friend, Josh.
Okay.
And
that's like a decent sized passage.
yeah, that's on the first page of it.
Okay. Okay, guys.
Do you find it...
Get comfortable.
All right.
Here it comes.
Do you find it difficult to make friends? I am.
Ooh.
At least I was until I discovered how to do it. First of all, take a large bucket of whitewash, then stand by the window and look out. When you see someone approaching whom you would like to know, wait until he is directly below, then empty the bucket over his head. He will stop and look up and shout unspeakable language at you. You will then reply, "Do come upstairs and clean yourself up," and throw him down the key. He will pick up the key and enter your home, tramping whitewash into the carpet all the way up. He will say, "Come, have a bath," light the geyser, and start running the water. He will take his clothes off, and as he is taking them off, say, "Ah, you have a hole in your undervest. Let me mend it while you are having your bath." He will say, "Thank you, I am very grateful for this." While he is in the bath, sit there talking to him, darning his vest. It doesn't matter what kind of thread you use, it is the deed which is important. I myself use cobbler's thread because when he wears the vest and feels the cobbler's thread against his skin, it is a constant reminder to him of our friendship, and he thinks, "I must phone this man again." When he is dry, hand him your best red silk dressing gown with the dragons. Then he can take his clothes, put them into the bathwater and wash them, then hang them out of the window to dry. Say to him, "Come and sit with me and talk to me by the window while they're drying." Whoops! You were just so enthralled, entrangled in my stories. Then you talk, enjoying one another's conversation. By this time, the clothes are dry. Fetch them in, and he will don them, thanking you for the darn on his vest. As it is now lunch, you offer him a share of your dinner. After dinner, he says, "Well, I must really go now," and as you go downstairs, he notices with alarm the whitewash on the carpet and says, "Goodness, look what I have done to your carpet." And you say, No, I only rent a room here. It is the landlord's carpet." Then he says, "We cannot let you get into bad odor with the landlord. Let us together clean this carpet." So you clean the carpet, and this makes you even closer friends. When you have cleaned the carpet, he says, "Well, I must really go now, but I shall come and see you again tomorrow, and we shall have another long talk." You have made a friend. When he has gone, go back to the window with another bucket of whitewash, where you can stand or sit, as is your wont, ready to make another friend.
Man, that's almost as stirring as when Captain Aubrey and Dr. Maturin became friends in the first book of the Aubrey Maturin series of novels by, I can't remember his name.
I feel like you're underselling this piece.
No.
Was it incredibly stirring?
Yes, I truly enjoyed that event in that novel.
How did that event go in that novel?
Man, I wish I could just pull out the book, but it's on my Kindle, which is out of batteries. But essentially, Captain Aubrey is watching a concerto, a quartetto to be precise.
Oh, this is the Master and Commander thing?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Would you like me to continue explaining?
You know, we're in for a penny and for a pound at this point. You might as well talk about your feelings about the friendship of fictional sailors.
I'm just going to describe how it goes.
Yeah, go with it. Go for it.
Captain Aubrey is attending a quartetto, and he's very excited because as a sailing man, he doesn't get to see music that much.
Yeah, he's a sailing man.
Indeed, a man who sails, a lieutenant. But because he's getting too excited, like pounding his fist to his knee and going rum-tum-tum-tum along with the music and all that, the doctor sitting beside him, a stranger to him, elbows him in fury, in outrage that this man is so uncouth in the concert hall.
Yes.
And they have an argument, and Captain Aubrey leaves. He's not a captain yet. He leaves. He leaves quite defeated in spirit.
Oh no.
But then he comes back home and finds, surprise, he has been promoted captain.
Oh my god.
And so his spirits lift indomitably.
Okay.
And then the very next day, who does he see on the street during his high-spirited morning stroll?
It's the snooty-ass doctor
from the
quartetto.
From the quartetto.
Okay.
And he immediately approaches him and says, "Oh gosh, I'm sorry I was such a boob in attendance of the quartetto yesternight."
Yes.
And but as a sailing man, I don't get to see music that much, right?
Right.
So we get carried away, and then the doctor's like, "Oh, you know what? I've never seen a better quartetto in my life, so I understand that you got carried away."
This quartetto is some hot shit.
And so begins a 40-year friendship between two men of action.
That reminds me of how I met my first best friend.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Who's that, Stefan?
I met Stefan when I was
maybe
18.
you never had one's concept of a best...
what kind of
one's
tragic childhood do you think that I had?
One's concept of a best friend continually upgrades with every new best friend made, is what I find.
Oh, you think so? Well, I mean, that doesn't mean that my first best friend was not my best friend. He was absolutely my best friend at the time.
It's true.
And the status in my life, which a best friend was when I was 5, is unprecedented. And
fair enough. I only asked if it was Stefan because the story about how you met Stefan would have kind of fit.
Nah.
Alright, tell the story that I haven't heard.
It kind of fit, I guess. I mean, yeah, no. I was at an outdoor recital. I was at an outdoor recital of a modern dance performance that was taking place in a outdoor amphitheater in the Rose Garden in the West Hills of Portland, which, if you know it, it's... Imagine the amphitheater of the Rose Garden in Portland, which is a fairly large outdoor park amphitheater, but like 3 times the size it actually is, because I was like a tiny child, and so everything was bedecked with a sense of scale and wonder.
Yes.
Like you do.
Right.
So I was wondering, I was running around, as is my wont, flitting from place to place and making a general nuisance of myself, when I saw a small boy with a group of other small boys, and the small boy was bestriding the staircase, and he said, "I am the champion of the world."
It's exactly like that moment from True Stories.
Yeah.
The boss of the boys and girls.
He's the boss of the boys and girls. You can live to 110.
And still... And still not understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, there we go. Good. Yeah, no, it was exactly like that.
Okay.
He wasn't wearing like a homemade cape and using win some homemade percussion instruments like pots and spoons.
Hey now.
Hey now. Hey now. You know, if you haven't seen the movie True Stories,
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, by David Byrne, it has John Goodman in it. It's
John Goodman sings a country song.
I listed it as my favorite movie of all time in some meme I did recently, and I think that might actually be true.
It's up there for sure.
Yeah. So, but anyway, that didn't happen. He said, "I'm the champion of the world," and I had recently absorbed the concept of relativism. And so I marched up to him and I said, "Nobody is the champion of the world."
Oh, so true.
And therein budded a long and fraught friendship. My friendships I've always been fraught since an early age. I just don't know what to do with all my feelings.
Is ours fraught?
My friends. No, actually,
I think it was once upon a time.
It was,
but no longer so.
Yeah. No, we made our way through the fraud.
Oh God! Why would you do that? It's the same fucking person. Oh, now my engine is doing it. Oh, that's the wrong button. I don't want to listen to any French music.
How are you so bad at trucks?
No, that was not my fault.
You were just saying earlier in this very video that you were very good at trucks.
That was not my fault. That man braked too suddenly. Well, I didn't leave enough braking distance.
You've now rear-ended him twice in a single run. So
look at him trying to outrun me. I can catch up with you.
Maybe if your engine stays on. Kudos, sir.
Oh God.
Yeah, no, I always like have. When I meet a new person who I want to be friends with, I'm like, I must consume you, and then eventually things level out.
My first best friend liked to tell me lies about video games.
Oh yeah,
and we're not talking about video games technically, right? Do we agree on this?
No. We're definitely reminiscing about our past friendships at this point.
Yes, he would tell me that like you could use a Game Shark to replace all the characters in GoldenEye 007 with Pokemon.
Oh man!
And I would be like, that doesn't sound likely, but what if it's true?
Kid lies. There's this particular species of kid lies, aren't there? That, you know. You just end up believing shit forever and ever and ever.
I remember enthusing about Roller Coaster Tycoon, and he would be like, "Theme Park is better." He was wrong. Theme Park is not better, but he made me believe it was better because he made it sound like its possibilities were truly limitless. Like you could design any creature you want to have be your mascot, which was and is technically impossible. But I didn't know this at the time.
I wonder if you... Holy Jesus. I wonder if you can... I wonder if you can say things about a person from if they were the kind of kid who lied all the time, whether that, you know...
I doubt it.
Whether that follows them along in life.
Me and that kid went to the same high school, although we did not hang out at all in high school. We became strangers. But there was this one moment where we were walking to the same place at the same time for some reason. And he asked me the question, "You remember when we used to hang out all the time?" And I didn't know what to say. I think my response was something like, "Yeah.
That was weird, wasn't
it?" Something like that was weird, which was like an awkward thing to say. But
yeah,
it is funny how these things happen when you go to the same school as someone for a long time.
My friendship with this young man came to an end when he and his mother moved to Seattle. It broke my heart, for he was my everything. And we.
I'm not sure if you want to overtake me, bro. I think that might not end well for you.
My father took us to on one of our last times hanging out together before he moved away. My father took us to a graveyard where he took pictures of us draped over the gravestones in aspects of grief, because my father has a sense of humor. I had
a very awkward in hindsight moment with this kid. This kid was Asian, right? He was Chinese, and at one point I said to him, I don't remember what the context was, but I exclaimed to him that I was friends with a black kid, him the black kid. And what he said to me was, "I'm not black, I'm white."
Oh, that is awkward.
Because he's right that he's not black.
Yeah.
So strange, the politics.
Status, man.
Yeah.
Kids and status. That is a thing that I remember distinctly from my own childhood, is that at a young age, like you recognize, you figure out status, you figure out pecking order, and you figure out that you need to avoid associating with people who are going to drag you down. You figure that out like super fast. Even I, as like a terminally socially befuddled child,
right?
Knew immediately, that there was a pecking order, and this was how it was going to work, and like, and there was definitely a racial divide around it where I went to school in the enlightened Northwest.
Yeah, I went. I can't. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. In my school, yes, the Hispanic kids were the underclass in my school. They did not mix with the white kids.
Is this in elementary school or like all?
This was the entire thing,
all the way through.
Yeah, I think in elementary school. God, I can't even remember if there were any black or Hispanic kids in my elementary school. I mean, these are all public schools, but
right.
If they were there, they were invisible to me, I suppose.
Except for your Asian friend who was black.
Well, no, the Asian kids in Silicon Valley
are are white.
Essentially, I mean, I don't want to make a sweeping statement there. Obviously, right. Obviously, there are ways in which their Asianness affects them, but in terms of elementary school, they were indistinguishable from white kids.
Yep.
Fascinating stuff, man.
Fascinating stuff. We're just unpacking all of our childhoods.
Yeah. Let's just have a moment to think. Look at the moon and think about the time that we have lost.
Let's think about our racist ass pasts.
Yeah, we've all got them.
We do all have them. I remember in third grade, I was completely mortified by the insinuation that I might have a crush on the Chinese girl in class, and the other kids would tease me mercilessly about this crush. And was there a racial element to that?
Probably.
To that, almost certainly. I was pretty sure that anybody who couldn't speak English very well was stupid.
Yes, that is definitely an easy thing to think when you're a kid.
Yeah, and the idea that I might be, in any way interested in a stupid person is just like anathema to my self-image at that point. God, kids are assholes.
It's true. In high school, my gang and I, we were kind of the self-made misanthropes. We were the ones who liked to pretend we were better than everybody, and everybody else's shit was funny. Mm-hmm. The type. And my friend Mark, who's actually a really cool dude, but and he was a really cool dude then, by high school kids' standards.
Right.
But he put out this. Okay, by high school kids in the 90s standards, because a high school kid would not get away with this nowadays. But he put out this piece. It was basically just an ironically made hate pamphlet about every group in school, like some of which were minorities and others of which were just people in bands. And the reasoning he had for making fun of everybody was never like. It was never like your rote racial arguments. It was always just like they have all these names for instruments like banjo ukuleles and viololins and stuff like that. But it was still patterned over like the appearance of hate speech, and it still targeted some minorities now and then. And eventually, the administration caught on after this made him the most popular kid in school.
Right.
They sent him to therapy and stuff. And the funny thing is that the school's reaction was, like, just as stupid. Like, they sent him to therapy, and, like, I remember he told me the story, like, the school called his parents and asked all these, like, questions about what kind of kid he was. And one question he was asked, his dad was asked, was, does he play video games?
Of course.
And
this would have been post-Columbine, right?
Yeah. And Mark's dad, God bless him, answered, yes, his favorite is Katamari Damacy. And he insisted that he explain Katamari Damacy.
I mean, I frankly would be alarmed if I had Katamari Damacy explained to me something like that.
Right, yeah. But, like, he was sent to see...
Does he want to wad us up into his life?
But, like, yeah, and he was sent to see this therapist, and the therapist. The therapist quickly decided that there was nothing wrong with this kid. He was just a dumb high schooler.
Right.
Like, it seemed like these people handled this.
Nobody had educated him on this particular issue.
The therapist he actually looked at parts of this thing, and like he thought the banjo ukulele gag was great.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, good job, kid."
So let's talk about why one of these things is not like the other, shall we?
Mm.
And that feels like something out of a Daniel Pinkwater book.
Yeah.
Man,
these weird chapters,
these weird books.
It is interesting that would.
What was your favorite book in like the 6th grade?
The 6th grade, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've already talked about this.
Yeah, no, that is a solid choice. Mine was Daniel Pinkwater's Alan Mendelsohn, The Boy from Mars, which if you do not know Daniel Pinkwater, he is a prolific author of children's books, along with a couple of memoirs, and his stuff has been important to me at various times in my life for various reasons. But he wrote some super. They're all like very iconoclastic, these books, in a kind of Roald Dahl sort of way, but more absurdist and without the absolute misanthropy that Roald Dahl brings to the table. He wrote some books for really small children. This is a book for about 6th or 7th graders, and it was set in oh god, I can't really do this book justice by explaining it, and it was just so weird.
Right.
It was so weird. It was so cool, and it was so it was one of those books that really, that pandered to you being the smart and different and like special kid, and
right. There are so many.
Yeah, but it was the good kind of that.
Right.
It was. I feel like it's sort of a response to Ender's Game. It's like, okay, here's a story about a magic kid, and it's just about as stupid as that would actually be.
Yeah.
It's about this kid who may or may not actually it's about this kid named Leonard who's a complete reject and social outcast at his suburban school, and this other exchange student named Alan Mendelsohn who claims to be from Mars, and who may or may not actually be from Mars.
Is this a book that you'd recommend any grown-ups read?
Yes, actually. I mean, I haven't read it since I was younger, but I remember it in quite a lot of detail, actually, and. If the mere facts of the plot of this book are so cool that I figure it has to be worth reading. It has to be worth a look.
Cool.
So check that out. I mean, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah, I'm sure you've already
totally
read it.
Still worth reading,
If you haven't read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I don't even know who you are.
Have you ever heard the radio shows?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the revival radio shows?
No, why would I do that?
They're okay. Most of the same actors.
I have a pretty strong rule against reading stuff that has been revived by a different creator.
Yeah. It's still the Beebs.
I know, but the Beebs ain't what they used to be.
That's true. There's also a revival book. There's a book called And Another Thing, the 6th book in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy saga by the guy who wrote Atticus Finch. Atticus Fowl? Something like
Artemis
that.
Fowl?
Artemis Fowl, that's it. Atticus Finch.
Yeah.
Interesting that's what came to mind.
So Harper Lee wrote the 6th Hitchhiker's book, huh?
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
I'd
buy that for $1.
It got some good reviews, believe it or not. I read the opening on Amazon Preview, and it was actually a pretty cool opening. It was Arthur Dent finally at peace in the embrace of death, in this like half aware of this like miasma of his memories all around him, and so many of those memories are Ford Prefect coming to get him for one last adventure. And then that happens again. Like he gradually realizes, oh God, this isn't a memory. This is really happening. Ford Prefect is stepping into my afterlife and saying, "We got to do something in the galaxy." And it's like, this is well done.
Well,
it's taking ownership of it as a new author,
You're right. That makes sense. I mean, I don't. It's like I'm sure that I don't think there's any inherent we all know how we feel about fan fiction,
Right.
and there's certainly no inherent disadvantage to this.
Yeah, I'm not going to go out of my way to read it.
It's like there's so much stuff to do. There's so much stuff to look at. There's so much stuff to read.
Atticus Finch was a pretty good book, though. That To Kill a Mockingbird.
You mean To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yeah, pretty good book.
You know, I never read it. No, nobody ever had me read it in high school.
Interesting. I think we read it in like middle school. It's probably racially problematic when you actually go back and look at it. Very white savior.
Well, probably, but that is true of many, many, many things.
Yeah. Anyway, what are you on now, man? Where do we go from here? To quote Buffy the Musical. Where do we go from here? Down, but down.
I thought that we were on a pretty fruitful kick talking about our. Didn't we do this in episode 2 or something? Talk about our childhoods.
We did it in the first episode, which was Lost. I told you about the alcove crew and all that.
Oh fuck yeah!
You actually referenced the alcove crew in episode 2.
There was a sofa.
Yeah,
I remember the sofa.
Yeah, we were the coolest in high school in our stupid high school way. Our friend Mark, who was also at fault for what was it called? What was his piece of hate speech? It was called the Narcissist Manifesto.
That sounds exactly like what it is. That sounds exactly what it is.
And the sequel was called How to Influence People and Make Friends. No, How to Make People and Influence Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he
baseline cleverness.
This dude was the president of the robotics club, and he actually custom fit a little futon couch thingy into the alcove of the library window where we sat every day for lunch.
That's super cool.
Yeah, we were fucking BMOC, man.
We had
big meanies on campus.
We had the chess room, and
Did you play chess?
Yeah, I did.
Nice.
I did play chess. I was on the B team.
Did you play chess every day at lunch in the chess room?
Some days we just sat around and verbally abused each other.
Nice. Yes.
We were. This was where you ended up if you were the lowest ebb, and if you needed someplace to be. And because there was nobody else on campus that we could realistically construe ourselves superior to, we reserved our vitriol for each other, and were absolutely vicious with each other.
Everybody did that. That was us too. Even though we considered all three of ourselves to be better than everybody else in the school, we also gave each other plenty of shit.
I imagine it was
funny.
Yeah, I imagine that it was friendlier than the way that we generally did it.
You were all just taking out your rage on yourselves.
Yeah, exactly. It was
reversing.
It was basically a competition to see who could say the worst thing in there, and so I got very good at saying terrible things. But yeah, no, those were the days, man. There was nothing interesting happened in that room.
Yeah. Yeah.
We occasionally looked out the window at something interesting that was happening outside, but that was pretty much it. Unfortunately, that's, I think that we've now exhausted this topic. Yeah. That's my life.
Childhood,
adulthood, old age. Like that game. Passage.
We're not talking about this, and we're saving that. We're saving that for the future. The Castle Doctrine just came out. I think it would be interesting to talk about. But Isaac doesn't really want to talk about it, and we're not talking about video games. So.
Yeah, no, we should. I have to play it first too.
True.
Absolutely. But yeah, no.
Also, some interesting news in Dota, which we're not talking about.
That's really stretching interesting to anybody who's not into Dota, though.
I think it raises some interesting game design points.
Yeah, I think that we're absolutely right to save those.
Yes, fine.
For another time.
Let's stop talking about the way we're not talking about video games. We're also not talking about Star Trek.
We're not talking about Homestuck.
This is our big unspoken rule. Don't talk about Star Trek.
Oh Jesus! Thank you, sir. Yeah, no, we haven't. And I've been. You know what I've been missing lately?
What have you been missing lately?
I've been missing liking Homestuck. I've been missing loving Homestuck.
There isn't any Homestuck to like or love right now.
There's plenty.
Look at that guy. Look at that guy.
He's a human. There's a human in that truck.
What's he wearing?
What's he doing? What is his sleeve made out of?
Why is he so still?
Oh, Lord.
Are you going to read something from Borges? Oh my god, okay, let's do it.
The death throes done, he lay now alone and broken and rejected, and then he sank into sleep. When he awoke, there awaited him his commonplace habits and the places of his everyday existence. He told himself that he shouldn't think too much about the night before, and cheered by that resolve, he unhurriedly dressed for work. At the office, he got through his duties passably well, though with that uneasy sense caused by weariness of repeating things he had already done. He seemed to notice that the others turned their eyes away. Perhaps they already knew that he was dead. That night, the nightmares began. He was left without the slightest memory of them, just the fear that they'd return. In time, that fear prevailed. It came between him and the page he was supposed to write, the books he tried to read. Letters would crawl about on the page like ants. Faces, familiar faces, gradually blurred and faded. Objects and people slowly abandoned him. His mind seized upon those changing shapes in a frenzy of tenacity. However odd it may seem, he never suspected the truth. It burst upon him suddenly. He realized that he was unable to remember the shapes, sounds, and colors of his dreams. There were no shapes, colors, or sounds, nor were the dreams dreams. They were his reality, a reality beyond silence and sight, and therefore beyond memory. This realization threw him into even greater consternation than the fact that from the hour of his death he had been struggling in a whirlwind of senseless images. The voices he'd heard had been echoes, the faces he'd seen had been masks, the fingers of his hands had been shadows, vague and insubstantial, true, yet also dear to him and familiar. Somehow he sensed that it was his duty to leave all these things behind. Now he belonged to this new world, removed from past, present, and future. Little by little, this new world surrounded him. He suffered many agonies, journeyed through realms of desperation and loneliness, appalling peregrinations, for they transcend all his previous perceptions, memories, and hopes. All horror lay in their newness and their splendor. He had deserved grace. He had earned it. Every second since the moment of his death, he had been in heaven.
Oh, that's a tough one.
That's his end and his beginning.
That's a tough one to get good, you know? Like, that's, I don't think, that's in the fiction?
That is in...
Is that from
In Praise of Darkness?
Yeah, that's what I thought. That was a hybrid fiction poetry book, and this volume sadly only contains the fiction. I also have the poetry in another book, which is awkward, and I really want to just get a volume of that book in particular.
Yeah.
That story is particularly interesting when you consider that it was probably written when he was blind.
Oh, that is interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think that it does a fantastic job of capturing the feeling of dissociation.
Yeah.
It's, if certainly if there ain't something in there that we could relate to, it wouldn't be any good.
Yeah, we can't relate to that, given that neither of us has died or gone blind.
No, we can relate to it.
Tell me about it.
I mean, I relate to it in that
there are some familiar sensations. It's kind of like the feeling of waking up from a dream, isn't it?
Yeah, it captures the feeling of being tired and disoriented,
True.
which we have all been there. And there's the fear in the bottom of that feeling of like super disorientation. If you've ever been like coming out of anesthesia or awake or emerging slowly from a difficult dream, that it's not going to stop.
Right.
Particularly when the sense of duration is fucked. So yeah, in that I feel like it is a good way to, and it's a good way to, it's a good way to capture the feeling of dream bubble deaths.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it is interesting how that is such an easy way to imagine death playing out.
Yeah,
it felt that like the curious trick that particular story plays is how familiar it feels.
Absolutely.
While describing an experience none of us has ever had.
Indeed, but it's like we know that time is subjective.
Indeed,
there's always the possibility that everything will just collapse into a point.
Right. Borges is interested in dreams. I have very spotty memories of my dreams from last night. I remember I was some kind of...
Oh boy, we were venturing into shaky territory here.
No, here we go, man. I was...
All right.
The context was that I was some kind of mercenary with a dangerous job to do.
Nice.
But before I could do this dangerous job, I really needed to shave.
Did you shave dry in the murderer's bedroom?
No, it was one of those things where it's like I'm trying to shave, but it's a dream and it's all shitty and I can't seem to do it properly. Oh. And like the urgency was mounting while I was like doing this really shitty job of shaving.
Oh no!
And I
by the way, I really love this idyllic rural highway that we're going through on the way to Gdansk. It reminds me of the byways of Western Oregon.
Yeah.
But anyway, as you were saying.
I don't know. I remember that the face in the mirror wasn't my face. It was this old, rugged mercenary's face. I feel like I rarely dream about myself. Do you share that?
No, I'm usually myself in my dreams. You want to know about the last dream that I had that I really remember vividly?
Yes.
I was on a bus. And I was on a bus. I was on a bus. It was the B-35, I think. I was kind of drifting. I was on the bus. Kept being on the bus, bus. It was at night. There were some stops sitting there. I got off at my stop. I walked into the subway, transferred to the subway. It was a very big old subway station. I went down the stairs to the metro station. I walked to the end of the hallway, and there was a wooden door, which I was going to walk through to get to the platform. I opened the door. There was a guy on the other side of the door. He stabs me. I'm like, hey, wait, I'm just here to get the train. He stops for a moment, and then he stabs me again. And that's it.
Oh.
That was the last memorable dream that I had.
I frequently dream video games.
I only do that if I've been playing way too much of a video game.
The funny thing is I haven't been playing way too many video games lately, but I still dream video games. The other night,
are they new and interesting video games?
Usually, yeah. Sometimes they don't make any sense. Like sometimes I'm dreaming that something is being expressed mechanically that couldn't possibly be, but it seems to make sense. But the other night I dreamt this really lovely kind of 2D version of Nobi Nobi Boy that had this black and neon color scheme.
Oh wow!
And like everything was musical. Like whenever anything moved, it was musical.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was great. I wish I was a coder.
Nobi Nobi Boy meets Moonside from Earthbound. One of my very I remember some of my dreams from early childhood more vividly than I remember the actual.
My first memory is a dream.
Yeah, I can't remember the memories that I have of the layout of the house that I lived in from the age of 0 to the age of 5. Are largely reconstructed from dreams I had of being in the house, and a few odd moments otherwise here and there. Oh God! I'm just going to try this one real quick. Sure. I have a distinct memory of dreaming that it was Christmas morning, walking down the stairs, discovering that I had been given Super Mario Brothers and a Nintendo, and putting it in, and it being fucking impossible. Of being literally everything was just too hard. Yeah, that is the general experience of my dreams, is that I'm supposed to read a book or a map, but I can't resolve anything on it into a fact. But do you know where the Cavern of Dreams resides? The Cavern of Dreams resides in the Simpsons' Rumpus Room. Really?
The Simpsons' Rumpus Room. If you look at a map of the Simpsons' house, it will have a Rumpus Room on it, which appeared one time in season 1. But it has a place in the house. There's a particular place in the house where the Rumpus Room is, and they never visit it, ever. This is going to go into that revival that I write of my Simpsons Digimon crossover fanfiction. I hope so. It has to. In the Rumpus Room. That'll be the name of the chapter. Oh man. Okay, we're done with dreams. We are done with dreams. We are unfortunately not done with this trip to Gdansk. Despite our best efforts. Do you think I violated the not talk about video games rule by talking about my video game dreams? No, because we're not talking about specific video games, but God, that's even less interesting than talking about dreams, man. We're suffering here. We're running into the limits of our natural ability. It is a problem. You have to be very aware when you talk about your dreams of how uninteresting dreams are. Just as a general matter, yeah. There are people who because Balloon, your engine. Oh my god. Nicely done. There's probably plenty of space. Let's look at that. You could maybe slide a Pomeranian in there. There are people who...
Can you get us closer to that balloon?
I'm not ever gonna... I'm not... How intentional was that? I'm gonna follow the map, man. It looks like it's gonna take us somewhere closer to the balloon. That's a remarkably stationary balloon, isn't it?
Oh.
No, is it moving?
It's kind of moving.
I don't think it is. I'm like comparing its position to the clouds.
Yeah, let's all get really close to the computer and stare at the balloon.
No, you're right. It's drifting.
It is. Oh, man.
You can see by the aliasing.
Do you want to ride in my beautiful balloon? Do you?
I was reading a write-up of a video game.
No, you're getting dangerously close to actually.
I won't identify the video game.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
But it talks about this object that looms in this video game, and he talks about how when you look at this object...
Loom kind of rhymes with balloon. You ever play Loom?
No.
Oh, man. You should play Loom.
He talked about when you look at this object, you can tell somehow that it's getting closer. It's like too large and too slow to really tell that it's getting closer, but he didn't know, but he could tell that it was. And I'll tell you how he knew, because of the aliasing. A pedestrian.
Oh, wow.
I'm not even going to finish that thought I was having about people talking about their dreams.
Will the pedestrian ragdoll if you have the pedestrian?
I'm sure it won't. I mean, look,
Will
there's no way I can break down those barriers anyway.
Oh, you're right.
They're protected mechanically.
That explains everything.
There's no way for me to run over pedestrians in this game.
I'm really still enjoying the fact that humans only exist in Poland.
I think they do exist elsewhere. We once saw a pedestrian on the ferry to London. Or the ferry to England.
That makes very little sense.
Very little sense?
Very little sense.
Not on the ferry itself, but, as we were approaching the ferry. We're talking about video games. We're talking about this video game.
We're talking about Loom.
Don't talk about video games.
Bob and Threadbare, the hero of Loom.
Oh yeah, I remember that got an advertisement in Monkey Island, and it was hilariously handled. But we're talking about video games.
What else is there?
There isn't anything else.
It's time for another reading, clearly.
I wish you could find that story Borges wrote about the territory becoming the map, but...
it would be appropriate, but we've already had some Borges, yeah?
Yeah, it's true. It looks like it might rain.
We've moved from dreams to weather. You have invisible... Oh, you have invisible cities.
I do, yeah. Read some of those.
We're moving from Borges to Calvino. We're moving from Ivor Cutler to Borges to Calvino, ladies and gentlemen.
You should read the preface before you read any of this.
You know, the person who loved this book more than anybody else I ever knew.
It's a book worth loving, honestly.
Was a girl named Bojana, who was the daughter of a Serbian nationalist guerrilla fighter.
Holy fuck. That sounds like the girl of someone's dreams.
Well, she had a serious crush on me, and I ran as fast as I could. And that was a thing. It was absolutely a thing. But
read the introduction.
She was a poet, and she was terrifying to little unformed masculine me. Kublai Khan does not necessarily believe everything Marco Polo says when he describes the cities visited on his expeditions, but the Emperor of the Tartars does continue listening to the young Venetian with greater attention and curiosity than he shows any other messenger or explorer of his. In the lives of emperors there is a moment which follows pride in the boundless extension of the territories we have conquered, and the melancholy and relief of knowing we shall soon give up any thought of knowing and understanding them. There is a sense of emptiness that comes over us at evening, with the odor of the elephants after the rain and the sandalwood ashes growing cold in the braziers, a dizziness that makes rivers and mountains tremble on the fallow curves of the planispheres where they are portrayed, and rolls up, one after the other, the dispatches announcing to us the collapse of the last enemy troops, from defeat to defeat, and flakes the wax of the seals of obscure kings who beseech our army's protection, offering in exchange annual tributes of precious metals, tanned hides, and tortoise shell. It is the desperate moment when we discover that this empire, which had seemed to us the sum of all wonders, is an endless, formless ruin, that corruption's gangrene has spread too far to be healed by our scepter, that the triumph over enemy sovereigns has made us the heirs of their long undoing. Only in Marco Polo's accounts was Kublai Khan able to discern, through the walls and towers destined to crumble, the tracery of a pattern so subtle it could escape the termites gnawing.
Now pick a random city.
Ugh. God damn. God damn. I want something relatively short. Cities and names for... Nope. That's too long, too.
They're all a little long. Cities and Eyes. 5.
Yeah, this one isn't.
Yeah, do that one.
Cities and Eyes, 5. When you have forded the river, when you have crossed the mountain pass, you suddenly find before you the city of Mariana. Its alabaster gates transparent in the sunlight, its coral columns supporting pediments encrusted with serpentine, its villas all of glass like aquariums where the shadows of dancing girls with silvery scales swim beneath the Medusa-shaped chandeliers. If this is not your first journey, you already know that cities like this have an obverse. You have only to walk in a semicircle and you will come to view of Mariana's hidden face, an expanse of rusting sheet metal, sackcloth, planks bristling with spikes, pipes black with soot, piles of tins, blind walls with fading signs, frames of staved-in straw chairs, ropes good only for hanging oneself from a rotten beam. From one part to the other, the city seems to continue in perspective, multiplying its repertory of images, but instead it has no thickness. It consists only of a face and an obverse, like a sheet of paper, with a figure on either side, which can neither be separated nor look at each other.
Ooh. So for those not following...
Topical.
For those who totally zoned out.
You shouldn't have, because this is some of the best writing ever.
This book is Marco Polo's accounts to Kublai Khan of all the cities he has visited, and all of the cities are kind of impossible and dreamlike, and it is a triumph of the imagination. Do you want to read one more? I see you found a short one.
Yeah, here's Cities in the Dead 4. What makes Argia different from other cities is that it has earth instead of air. The streets are completely filled with dirt, clay packs the rooms to the ceiling. On every stair, another stairway is set in negative. Over the roofs of the houses hang layers of rocky terrain like skies with clouds. We do not know if the inhabitants can move about the city, widening the worm tunnels and crevices where roots twist. The dampness destroys people's bodies, and they have scant strength. Everyone is better off remaining still, prone. Anyway, it is dark. From up here, nothing of Argia can be seen. Some say it's down below there, and we can only believe them. The place is deserted. At night, putting your ear to the ground, you can sometimes hear a door slam.
You know, I've always enjoyed the notion of a book that doesn't really demand that you read it in a linear fashion.
No, you can just
pick up this book and
go to town.
Yeah, just read one a day, you know?
Strong medicine. The first city, the one that is two faces with no thickness, reminds me of a similar allegory from the game Illusion of Gaia.
Oh, don't. You can't.
One of my favorite games.
You can't. You won't. You don't.
But I must. How may I mayn't when I in fact must? What are you doing? Oh no, not Borges' Bestiary. Did I give you this book?
No.
I gave somebody this book. I've given this book as a present.
The Book of Imaginary Creatures, it's called.
Yeah. Ichthyocentaurs. Lacofronte, Claudianus, and the Byzantine grammarian John Tzitzis have each, separately, mentioned the Ichthyocentaurus. There is no other reference to them in the classics. We might translate their name as centaur fish. The word was applied to beings that mythologists have also termed centaur tritons. They are often portrayed in Roman and Hellenistic sculpture. From the waist up, they are men. From the waist down, they are fish. And their forefeet are those of horse or lion. They have their place among the sea gods, alongside the hippocampuses.
The fun thing about this book...
Are these genuine, or...?
Yeah, they're all derived from, in some cases, real myths, in some cases just the minds of... Like, the Morlocks are in here, as well as, like, stuff from the notebooks of these just weird artists.
A reptile dreamed by C.S. Lewis. I'm not actually going to read it.
The fun thing about this book is that...
this is from Paralanger, the dull as dishwater and deadly boring science fiction books that C.S. Lewis wrote.
The interesting thing about this book is that while it is kind of scholarly, it's actually just picking some creatures from like the real history of mythological creatures, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
It never quite deigns to say that it's all imaginary. It wants to seem sort of like a book of creatures that do exist in this real place called the imagination.
I got to tell you, there's a book by Stanislav Lem. Do you like Stanislav Lem? He's sort of part of this. If I'm talking about Italo Calvino, and I'm talking about Borges,
he's a part of magical realism.
He's more science fictiony than most. But,
I've never heard of him.
Stanislav Lem is a Polish science fiction / magical realist author.
I think what I'm going to do is every time you say this person's name, I'm going to flash an alternate spelling of it on the screen.
His last name is Lem. It is spelled exactly how you would expect that to be spelled.
Lem.
That is correct. Well done.
Right.
And Stanislav is not exactly a difficult name to get.
I'll prove you wrong.
All right then. Anyway, Stanislav Lem wrote a bunch of science fiction, which is really, really great, including a book called The Siberiad, which is hilarious.
That one does sound familiar.
And totally worth reading. But he also wrote a book which I own, sadly not here, but have never managed to read, but which I think we might try to read it together at some point because the book is called The Perfect Circle, and it is a selection of reviews of books that do not exist. Literary reviews, like serious literary reviews of books that do not exist.
Cool. Oh yeah, cool. That's definitely a Borgesian sort of thing to do.
Yeah. So I think ooh, Gdansk.
Gdansk.
It looks like we finally reached our goal.
Gdansk to that.
Gdansk to this. Gdansk my that.
Gdansk to you, sir.
You know,
well, this has been an awkward episode.
It has, but I think that it has a certain. It has unfolded in a way where I think there is a lot of
charm,
a lot of treasure to be had in this.
I hope you.
If you're like really interested in both us and in the things that we like, then I think this episode has just been, it's been a little box. It's been a little box full of amazing authors and us, kind of mercilessly butchering their work.
I'm glad you now know more about our childhoods. A hotel.
Yeah. Ooh, look at that hotel.
Looks kind of nice.
It says hotel on every side.
It looks kind of like an abandoned school.
Since we've been reading like short pieces of prose that are essentially poetry, I feel like I should round it off with one of them while you're trying to park, but I don't have the...
I want you to read The Leveler from the Book of Imaginary Beings.
But I wanted to read a selection from Paris Spleen.
Well, you can't, can you?
Why not?
Do you have it?
I can use the other computer screen.
There's no fucking time for that.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Just to show you, I'm gonna read it to you after I'm done with... This is in alphabetical order, isn't it?
It should be. There it is, The Leveler.
Whoa, look at that illustration.
I'm going to try and get this illustration up on the screen.
That is amazing. Between 1840 and 1864, the Father of Light, who is also called the Inner World, afforded the musician and pedagogue Jakob Lorber a series of protracted revelations concerning the humanity, the fauna, and the flora of the celestial bodies that make up our solar system. One of the domestic animals that those revelations apprised us of is the leveler, or tamper downer, Bodendrucker, which renders incalculable services on the planet Miron, identified by the current editor of Lorber's work as Neptune. The leveler is 10 times larger than the elephant, which it greatly resembles. It has a shortish trunk, long straight tusks, and pale green skin. Its legs are very thick, and they are conical. The points of the cones seem to fit into its body. The leveler is a plantigrade animal that labors for bricklayers and builders to level the ground. It is led to a plot of uneven ground, and with its legs, its trunk, and its tusk, it levels it. The leveler feeds upon grass and roots and has no enemies, save a few species of insects. Poetry? Reference material? A funny story? Good work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. We leveled up.
Oh, awesome.
I want to ferry explosives.
Is that a possibility?
Yes.
Oh, shit. Why haven't we done that already?
The options are explosives, gases, flammable liquids, flammable solids, infectious, toxic and infectious substances, or corrosive substances.
Oh, how to choose?
It's definitely explosives.
All right.
I think these are each more difficult than the last, but I have no idea what happens if you...
I assume you blow the fuck up.
I really hope so. Anyway, let's...
On that note...
Good night. Good
Goodbye,
night. Good
everybody.
night.